Hello and welcome to episode 64 of our Conversation to Connect, Let's Get Real Talk, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm Cyndi ONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. Our conversation this week is with the amazing Charlie Hoffman, joining us from Stanwood, Washington. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you, Cyndi, so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I am too. I always love talking to you, Charlie, and this is going to be fun. So I'm excited for us to roll up our sleeves and discuss your topic, focused growth on authentic marketing, with you today. Before we get going with this intriguing conversation, I want to take a moment to introduce Charlie to our listeners and share her passion for supporting women entrepreneurs. So Charlie Hoffman is an organizational wizard with a passion for all things operations. And she's a military veteran, and she brings discipline and efficiency to everything she does. And that's so true. You just are amazing. So alongside your role as a loving wife and mother to two incredible children, she says, who face their own unique challenges, don't we all, right? Charlie's dedication and multitasking abilities shine, making her a true force to be reckoned with. So welcome again, Charlie, and thank you so much. I'm looking forward to getting to know you even better. Every time we have these conversations, it just gives another layer to our relationship, right?
Yeah, it does. I really like getting to know you on a deeper and deeper level every time we talk.
Oh, me too. So before you jump in, talking about your focused growth on authentic marketing, share with us a little bit about your journey so we can give our listeners that opportunity to get to know you better themselves.
Awesome. So one of the things that when I look back at things I've already done that brought me to this point today is things like my military service. I work a lot in my business, Free Time Solutions, on the operations and the system so that everything flows smoothly. I learned those skills while serving in the military, and now I just apply them differently than I used to. In a past life, after the military, I went to college and I became a teacher. So again, I'm using the same skills of operations and systems in order to make my business today flow and be organized in a way that makes sense. Because I don't know about you, but the most efficient, organized people I know are good teachers. They have classroom curriculums to track, they have grades to track, they have all these pieces that they need to track and stay organized for. And it's the same thing in our businesses. So when we look at marketing and operations, we also need the strategy and the system in order to support that. So my military service, my time as a teacher, and then now today as the CEO of Free Time Solutions, I'm using the same kind of make sure everything's organized, make sure the system works, and then adjusting as necessary, because as we learn and grow, we get more efficient, right? We learn more, we implement systems to help us. And that's basically what I'm going to talk about today is how do we have a system in place and still market ourselves and our business authentically so that we come across as a real human and not a robot.
Right. Well, that's a beautiful introduction, Charlie, not only to let our listeners know about your skill sets and how they just have all blended so beautifully together to bring you where you are today, but also as a reminder for all of us who are entrepreneurs that the journey that we've been on, nothing's wasted, right? Yeah. So to embrace that, no matter, I was a homeschool mom for a lot of years, and that was my encouragement going forward is, that I remember feeling that God was telling me, I've been preparing me for the next season. And I'm thinking, really, getting out there in the workforce and being an entrepreneur or working for somebody after homeschooling. But yes, being a teacher, like you say, did prepare me. And so I just think that's a really good place to start, is for us to just take a moment as entrepreneurs and just appreciate the journey that we've been on and appreciate all the things that we've been exposed to and that we've been through and how they brought us to this moment. And then going forward to have the awareness to maybe pay more attention to, be more intentional, right? About the things that we're doing so that we can have that balance and implement them into our lives and our businesses.
Yes, exactly. And that's what it means to have focused growth, right? Because we are doing all these things, but how do we stay focused and grow at the same time? And how do we implement the systems in place that work for us on an individual level, right?
Right.
It all comes together.
It's all synergistic. It really is.
Mhm.
And so you have 5 different, authentic marketing, building genuine connections for sustainable growth. And you have 5 different tenets to that. Do you want to review those first and then jump into them?
Yeah. So the first one is creating a genuine connection, right? The second one is transparent communication. Third, we have storytelling. Fourth, we have our own ethical practices. And fifth, we have long-term relationships. And how do we manage those?
And I have to tell you, when I looked at your outline, I was like blown away. I'm like, oh, these are so beautiful. They really are important little stepping stones for building not only authentic marketing, but authentic relationships.
They really are. And part of building authentic relationships, Cyndi, you know this with exceptional connections, is to cultivate that connection back and forth, to grow that connection, and to even like meet with clients, potential clients, friends, networking partners outside of, the safe box that you've created.
Yeah, outside of the event. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I hope people do that because that's where the magic happens. There's a place where we meet, like you say, whether it's our luncheon or an after hours event. And I look at that as kind of it is a laboratory of sorts. It is a safe place, right? It is a meeting place. We can use all those adjectives to describe it. But in essence, to take it to the real world, to take it outside of that setting, to get to know people better, have them over for tea, meet for coffee, go for a walk. Those are the opportunities that really strengthen and deepen relationships.
Right. That's where the friendships get formed. That's where the connections get formed. And you're more likely to do business with somebody that you know on a more intimate level than somebody that just posted an ad somewhere. And
yeah. I mean, it sounds trite, but know, like, and trust. It really is that. And that takes time. And I mean, not necessarily years, but it takes touches, I call it. So each time you send a text or an email or you meet with them or you connect to the meeting, you're building that relationship, and those touches can, I believe, just accelerate that relationship.
Yeah, I think the last statistic I saw was it takes like 15 touches or more before someone's liable to contact you.
Right. Yeah, it does. And I've even heard as many as 25, which scares people and shocks them. But again, if you think of each interaction with them as a touch, and it could even be social media, right? Even responding to somebody's post because you get to know them. Oh, they like gardening. Oh, they like, like I know you have bumper crops of strawberries.
I do.
You and Heather deal with in the summer. So, those strengthen relationships as well. Well, let's jump into your first takeaway, genuine connections, because I love that. That's to me what it's all about.
That's the meat to the potatoes, right? So, in building genuine connections, you want authentic marketing to focus on building those real meaningful connections with customers, fostering their trust and loyalty. So just exactly what we talked about is like becoming friendly with them. You don't have to be their best friend, but friendly, right? And just get to know them a little bit so that you can cultivate the relationship and be like, hey, I know that you're struggling in that one area. And, say they're looking to update their website. Hey, I know you're struggling in that area. And I would be really happy to lift that weight from you and take on this project and really turn your website into something that works really well for you and your clients. You've already built the connection, right? You've already built that know, like, and trust factor.
Yes.
So, then you're able to cultivate that into potentially a transaction, or maybe they know somebody that they will refer your way because of the connection that you have built. Statistic I heard a couple weeks ago was every person that you run into knows 250 other people.
Yep.
So think about that when you're interacting with people, because you don't want to treat someone badly because they know 250 other people that they're going to tell, hey, this person did not treat me very well. I would not do business with them, right? You want to cultivate the opposite. You want them to refer you to those 250 other people.
Right. Well, and you make a couple good points there that I want to just touch on. Is one, I mean, when people have had an experience working with you, they're more apt to share it, broadcast it, if it's a negative experience than if it's a positive one. So you have to be really careful in being able to offer, exceptional customer service and just be able to connect with them. The other point is, when we don't refer people unless we feel comfortable with them, because it's our reputation that's on the line. And that's another consideration here. It's yes, the know, like, and trust, but trust to the extent that it's not just I trust him. Do I trust him with my network?
Right.
And so
it's a whole different level of trust.
It's a whole different level. Yes.
Yeah. So as part of that, I mean, that leads us into the next point here, is the transparent communication. I fully believe in transparent communication, and we have implemented that as part of our system that we have in place for working with clients. So they can read the notes from meetings. They can look in their files and see what we're working on. We are implementing a new system which they'll be able to track how their project is and how it's going along the line, and as well as things that we might need from them along the way, right? Because things come up. Maybe we need an image or a write-up for a specific piece of somebody's website or social media, or an image didn't quite turn out as clearly as we want, so maybe they have a new one. That communication piece is super, super important. So and that's part of one of my 4 pillars, which is the 4 agreements, is that being impeccable with your word, right? And so that's all part of the transparent communication, because it involves open, honest communication, sharing successes and challenges, and creating that relatable and human brand image. Because yes, we can use AI for a lot of things, but we need to make sure that we are paying attention to when those client touch points are and how we are communicating to them as humans. You can also set up some of your automations to be human or trigger a human to talk to. Because I don't know about you, but I hate being on hold and going through menus of options when I make a phone call to pay a bill, right? And it takes you through the whole thing. So that's a whole different subject, but transparent communication, I feel, is super, super important when you're talking to friends, clients, network, all of the above.
Right. Wow. Okay. So in your opinion, how does authentic marketing contribute to building strong, brand reputations and customer loyalty?
So I feel like having that transparent communication builds that know, like, and trust factor, because you know them on a human level, right? You know them on a one-on-one level. I have clients that I can just call and say, hey, it's Charlie. I sent you over XYZ. Would you mind taking a look at it for me and let me know what you think? Or we're testing out a new system right now. And so I've reached out to a couple of clients and said, hey, we're testing out a new system. Would you mind if I transferred your stuff over there? And we used you as like a test subject or guinea pig. And I would like your feedback on that and how it's working for you. And do you like how that works versus how we've been doing things?
Sure.
So I feel like that helps you in the authentic marketing piece because it builds that strong brand reputation and that customer loyalty, because it's bringing them in as part of the process. They're involved in the process of, like, for me, I do marketing for other businesses. So they're involved in building that marketing from the ground up. You know, we're not just asking them a bunch of questions and creating a bunch of stuff for them. It's give and take on all those different levels.
Right. Well, we all know that communication is important in marriages and friendships and business. But I love the way you paired it with transparent communication, because that just adds a whole new level of clarity there. And also not only clarity, but just like accountability, right? So I think that's really beautiful. So let's move on to storytelling, because I love
storytelling. Okay, so have you ever run into a post or a piece of media that was just very cut and dry, detailed oriented, and you totally got lost and you kept scrolling? I feel like we've all been there.
And I resemble that one sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes we just need to get the facts out there, right?
Yeah.
But alternate those like infographic kind of like fact posts or whatever with some storytelling. Like, hey, I ran into a problem figuring out how to share my calendar with other people so that they can schedule on my calendar. Maybe that's a problem you've run into. And so they're trying to figure out a solution to make that happen. So they can talk about, I tried this program and it worked for this, but it didn't work for this. And then I tried this problem and it worked for this, but it didn't work for this. Like, tell the story of how you went through the process and the struggles along the way to get that final product. Because I feel like that is missing in a lot of this authentic communication, the storytelling piece, because well, it's more personal, right? And they're more likely to say, hey, you know, I've been struggling in that area too, and I could really use some help with my calendar system.
Because people can relate to it, right?
It's relatable. Exactly.
You're telling your story, and there's some piece of it that they feel like, oh, she gets me, or they understand my pain points. You know, in marketing years ago, I've always heard, you know, sell the sizzle, not the steak, right? Because that's what it is. It's both. When I say that, the sizzle is the story in a way. The steak is more just the features and the benefits, but it's more exciting, and it has people be more relatable, has them lean in, has them want to hear more, and it's something that they can. Because I heard this once. We all think in pictures. And so a story is a vivid picture, right?
A vivid picture, yeah.
Follow and see in their mind's eye and be able to, you know, really get what you're trying to communicate to them.
Exactly. And when you say that, it's like reading a book, right? We've all read good books and we've read not so good books, and we've read engaging books that we read in a day, and then we've read books that take us a year, right? Or maybe that book that was going to take us a year ended up on the sidelines because it wasn't engaging enough of a story for us, right? It didn't draw you in. So the storytelling piece is the piece that draws you in. It conveys the journey. it conveys the values, which for me is the 4 agreements: be impeccable with your word, always do your best, don't make assumptions, and don't take things personally. And
Which is not easy to do. I mean, we all
it's
have that. That's our knee jerk, right?
right.
But then if you have that as your tenant, then you can go, oh, okay,
Okay.
let's look at this again. Let's,
Right. Right. Sometimes feedback can feel very personal. And
Mhm.
I specifically ask for a lot of feedback on the work that I do so that I can provide the best solution or the best product to the client. So if I'm not taking that personally, I'm a lot more efficient at the work that I do,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm not judging myself based on that. I'm, you know,
You're inquiring, you're wanting to know, you're wanting clarification. Okay,
mhm.
so before we move on, how do you ensure that your messaging and content that you're produced, is produced by your marketing team truly reflects the values and the culture of your business?
Well, we have gone through Wonderful Morrison's class, right? And so I actually wrote this like 90-page brand book based on the work
Whoa.
that I did in her class. And so that has all the information in it that I need and that the team needs in order to convey the message that we want to put out accurately. Now I do
90 pages. Wow.
90 pages. So not everybody has to be as crazy as me, but I kind of do a mini version of that when I work with clients. I create a marketing plan that answers a lot of these questions so that we can convey what the client wants to convey in the best way possible. And we also record our meetings when we talk to clients and things like that. So we get a transcript and we are able to actually take their words specifically on how they talk about their product, how they talk about their service, and put it into their website, their social media, and things like that. Because conveying that personality of the people that are running it and telling that story is
Mhm.
super important. And that also goes along with the next piece, which is our ethical practices. But does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And it's really beautiful the way you weave that in, and because it's important, because you are representing your clients in social media
Mhm.
and you
Mhm.
have to know their voice,
Mhm.
because otherwise people will say that doesn't there's something that's missing here,
That
there's
doesn't sound like me.
oh,
People that know me are gonna know that's not me who posted that. They're gonna know it's generic. They're gonna know that it's like marketing material or whatever. Not everybody wants to feel like what they're creating or with their team didn't come from their heart, right? Our
right,
business is come from what we believe in. It comes from our heart. So if we can't convey that message correctly, things get lost in translation,
right.
and we don't want that.
You have a big responsibility because you're representing your clients
Mhm.
um, to the community, and
Mhm.
you need to be able to shift as they shift their business as well, so that
Yes,
it doesn't feel out of sync or inconsistent
out of scope.
with their
Yeah.
main message, right? And so you're right, it does lead into ethical practices, because you want to ethically, not only from a standpoint of wanting to be their advocate and representing them, but
Mhm.
ethically represent them as well,
Right.
right? In the business practices.
Yeah. So there's a few different ways that we do that when we work with our clients, but also um, prioritizing ethical business practices and responsible marketing is really important because it protects you or as the client, and then it also protects the like it would be me as like the marketer, right?
Mhm.
um or whoever you use. But if it ensures that alignment of actions with the brand values and customer expectations. And we
Mhm.
do that with our transparency, and we do that with our own pillars of, always do your best, be impeccable with your word, don't take things personally, and don't make assumptions, right?
Mhm.
And we have systems in place that this should never be a problem, because, I have, different templates for how we do different types of projects. So it's the same for everybody. If something gets updated in the system and how we do it, it gets updated for everybody, right? So when you're specifically talking about ethical practices, one of the experiences we had was we had clients not feeling like they were talking to a person when they messaged through the client portal. So one of the things that we implemented, because it would say the comment was from Free Time Solutions, was we implemented starting to put our names at the end of the message so they knew who they were talking to specifically. And that's just one example of one of the little things we could do. We've also really improved our approvals process. So what that means is when we send something to a client, they have to approve it before it ever gets posted, right? Or before it ever goes up. And if it ends up being late because of whatever reason, right? Then it can either get posted later, scheduled for later. If it was specifically for a specific day and it wasn't approved, then we have a conversation. Do we shift that date, or what do we do? Like the holidays are coming up. Do you have a special Thanksgiving post that wants to go out? What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to say? How would you want to greet your clients? And then, so we put it all together and then we send it to them for approval. And if it doesn't get approved, then it doesn't get posted, and so that communication is really clear.
You have that communication up front so they know that.
Yes. So, and that's part of our ethical practices, is making sure that everything's communicating correctly for the client. So everything always gets approved before it goes out.
Right. That's beautiful. That's a good policy.
Yeah. And that helps us create those long-term relationships, which is number 5.
Okay.
So do you have any questions about the ethical practices piece before we?
I mean, unless you have another example to give. That comes
Not
to mind, but I think that was great.
Okay. Yeah. Some of the systems for the ethical practices that we're implementing revolve around what I was talking about earlier with the transparency. So they kind of go hand in hand. And if anybody's interested, I'd like to talk to them about how we do that. But it's very detailed and it could be a whole nother hour. So just remember that the ethical practices and having those things in place is really important to protect yourself as a business, and then also protect your clients.
Yes. Yeah, it's a win-win both ways.
It is. So long-term relationships, right? By valuing customer relationships over short-term gains, right? Long-term relationships over short-term gains. Authentic marketing cultivates that enduring customer loyalty, right? Contributing to sustained business growth. So say I'm working with a client and for whatever reason, maybe they find a better deal somewhere else or want to try working with somebody else, and they change marketing companies, right? How I talk about and to them is not going to be the same in this other company. So the message that gets to the client changes because of that, right? So if I'm keeping those long-term relationships with a client, then the consumer is also getting the same message, right?
Yes.
And it cultivates that care for other people. Like, hey, I would rather work with 10 companies and do all their stuff for them than work with 250 of them and just do this piece or this piece or this piece or this piece, right? It's more efficient for my time and theirs. It's usually more efficient for their pocketbook and things like that. So long-term relationships are super important, not only to you as the business owner, but also to the client, because they keep coming back for you, right?
And isn't that the goal for anything?
Yeah.
For friendships, for family, to have those relationships that are enduring, that endure the test of time is a beautiful thing. It really is.
Right. So with like we talked about earlier, with the digital age, social media is dominant. It's a main form of marketing now, especially for small businesses, because let's be honest, many of us small business owners can't afford Super Bowl commercials or mainstream media commercials. And, nowadays there's so many streaming services and things like that it's hard to get your commercial up there and going anyway. I had a talk with a guy who does the digital billboards, and those can even be quite pricey. And then your image shows up as they're flying down the freeway, whatever that looks like. So with the digital age, we need to maintain that authenticity while adapting, so that we don't lose the momentum that we've already built, right?
You're saying adapting to different technologies, right?
Yes. So I know my business has grown by adapting to different technologies as we've gotten going. Because a year ago, we were doing strictly social media management. We only had about 5 clients, and how we were doing the work, based on the programs that we had to do it, took probably about 10 times longer than they do now. Part of that is the system that we put in place. And then part of that is investing in systems that help you run your business more efficiently. There's certain things you can automate. There's certain things you shouldn't automate. It's how you want to cultivate those relationships and keep them long-term, while continuing marketing your business and things.
Right? We all have to do that in our businesses. We all have to determine what are things that we need to, have more hands-on versus automate, so that we can free up more time for ourselves.
Yeah. And so one of the things you want to look at is, what are the things you're already doing? How can you streamline that so when you pour water in the top, it flows freely through the system? So that's one of the things that I really love looking at when I'm working with clients, is like, where's the kinks in the hose? Let's alleviate those kinks in the hose so that things flow more smoothly, for the entire system, front to back, inside and out. So say you have, you go to somebody's website, they have a form that you fill out for a free downloadable, right? Well, that's, or you sign up for their newsletter, right? So you sign up for their newsletter, and many times it automatically adds you to that newsletter list, right? When you first get started on these things, you set these things up manually, right? And maybe you send your newsletter out the first 5 or 10 times manually. You have an email list, and you just copy and paste it, and maybe you have a template for your email newsletter, maybe you don't, and you just kind of manually do it. Then you're like, you know what? This takes a really long time for me to do this, having to create a new document and start all over every single week or once a month or however. So let's create a template. So then you make a template for your newsletter so that it's in the same format every time it goes out. And then you're like, I wish there was an easier way to track who wanted the newsletter and who doesn't, who subscribed to the newsletter and who didn't, so then you can update the system for that. Maybe it's a different subscription. So then, as you build it, you get all these other little pieces. And then once you get to a certain point, you might have a system that does most of them and or all of them, which is kind of where we're at right now. We have a client load, and we do social media, we do websites, we do all kinds of different marketing, ads, update profiles in Google, all kinds of different things. So how do we track and manage all those tasks? Because for the 20 clients that I have on my board right now, that's a lot to track for each individual client because they might have 50 things going on, per client. So finding out what,
right? Otherwise,
right.
how do you
So
keep track of it all?
how do you keep track of it all? So having a system in place that tracks that all helps these long-term relationships because you can, I check in with my clients about once a month to make sure the system is flowing correctly, see what updates they have that touch point conversation and talk about growth potential. So we also had the strategy piece onto it too, right? So it's all comes together.
It does. It's really synergistic. It's very beautiful. I just love the way you view not only systems and structures, but I'm looking at just the list, and it's also relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when you think of systems and structures, it's really cut and dry and it's very analytical and it's not touchy-feely. But the way you've crafted this, it really does take into consideration the person and the relationship and honoring that relationship with the ethical practices, with the storytelling to make you more relatable. It's just really beautiful. I'm just really inspired by your vision for how you interact with your clients, and not only clients, just your relationships. That's who you and Heather are, and with John as well. So, well, I've just really enjoyed this conversation. This has been beautiful. I want to make sure our listeners know how to get a hold of you. So if they want to get to know you or find out more about your services. So I know you have a new distinguish your companies. So your free time back.
So yes, so Free Time Solutions, you can find us on our website at yourfreetimeback.com. You can email us at get@yourfreetimeback.com, or guess what? You can actually call us and talk to a human. And our phone number is 877-395-5678. And I believe you can text that number too. We literally just set it up yesterday. That's why I had to look.
That's your business number?
Our business phone number, yes.
Okay.
And so there's several ways to get a hold of us and things like that. You can even schedule a Zoom with us right on our website. So we talk in all kinds of forms: text, email, Zoom, however you talk is how we talk. So we'll meet you where you're at. It's what we're really good at.
Okay, so your company is Free Time
Time Solutions.
And
yes.
your email or the website to check out is
yourfreetimeback.com,
right?
Yes.
And I'll have the information to connect with you below in the description. And you have a special offer for our Exceptional Connections community. What is that you want to offer?
Okay, so for our Exceptional Connections community, head over to our website, go to the membership options. Our membership is now free, you guys. And every week we put out a digital discovery newsletter that John, our marketing and strategy guy, puts together, and they're super cute and super fun. Lots of really good information about different things you might want to think about for your business, and you can get that absolutely free, as well as you will get notified when we have workshops or trainings or other things coming up. That's all.
So that's the digital discovery newsletter. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Beautiful. I love this. Well, thank you so much, Charlie, for just being a contribution to me. Your friendship and Heather's has just been such a blessing. From the first time you came into my garden and you interviewed me, coming to my garden parties and being a part of our Exceptional Connections community, and as a contribution team member, we just so appreciate you and so grateful to have you in our lives. And I know a lot of our members use your services, and I've taken advantage of them, and we're going to be working together some more as well. So thank you so much for this beautiful, it's a really beautiful blueprint, not only for that you're using in your business, but that a lot of us can adopt for our own businesses as well.
Mhm.
And so do
Mhm.
check out the takeaways below, because those will really be inspiring to you to be able to, reflect on how those 5 tenets with I'm going to review them real quick: the genuine connections, transparent communication, storytelling, ethical practices, and of course, all with the goal of building long-term relationships in our businesses and our friendships as well. So thank you so much for joining us. This is really fun. I just want to leave everybody with: make every connection an exceptional connection. Thanks so much. So glad you
All
could
right,
join
thanks,
us.
Cyndi.